Special guest today, Emmy Award-winning sportscaster Ryan Ruocco joining us. Ryan, how's everything going?
Good, man. Hanging in there. Missing sports, of course, but happy to talk to you, bro.
No, it's great to see you. And I know, just a few days removed from an unofficial holiday for Star Wars, May the 4th be with you, belated one. I was curious what you might have been watching on May 4th.
Yeah, so May the 4th also be with you, Bobby. We watched Rogue One to celebrate May 4th. And man, what's funny is like I'll occasionally go back and just watch the final Vader scene just because it's so, great if you're a Darth Vader fan. But I hadn't watched the whole movie in a while. And it's such a good movie. Like you don't have to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy that movie.
Well, a lot of people may not be busy, but I got to tell you, for a man with many hats, you've been very busy during this pandemic. And I was just wanted to get your thoughts and curious about what it was like to host the WNBA draft virtually. That was one of the first events that we really got to see during the global pandemic.
It was cathartic almost, seeing my teammates sort of emerging from the cocoon I've been in downtown Manhattan. At that point, I hadn't left. I live in Soho. I hadn't left Soho in 5 weeks, and I went to Bristol for the WNBA draft, and I was a little nervous about that, but I had a colleague or friend or two who had been at ESPN during this time, and they're like, "Look, Bristol feels super safe. Like everybody's taking crazy precautions," and so I trusted it, and man, I have to give an enormous amount of credit to ESPN and to everybody who runs the headquarters in Bristol, because they've done such a wonderful job of making you feel safe and cared for in this environment. And going there, I was put at ease by the distance everyone kept, the skeleton staff we've used. Even just to give you an example, even our A2, who, was in charge of our audio situation on the floor in the studio, he rolled us out new batteries out of a Lysol wipe, so like his hand wasn't the last thing to touch it. That's how strict everyone was. And the only time we didn't have masks on is when we were on the air. And Rebecca and I on opposite sides of the desks. And, so that part of it, put me at ease. And then just getting to do an event, and a real event, it was awesome. And I was proud of our team because it took, a lot of different calls and rehearsals to make sure we had everything down virtually. We had so many different people in different locations. I thought Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA, was wonderful. Holly Rowe, working from Salt Lake City, was great. I thought Sue Bird, who added so much in studio with us. She was at an adjacent studio on the same floor as us, but distanced away. And then Rebecca's always the best. So it was fun, man. It was fun. And I thought it was a great time to celebrate something in sports when we really needed it after having none of it for what was at that point a 5-week period.
I know a lot of our fans at home will know you from the Yankees and the Nets, but I'm sure you're going to be excited to be hosting some New York Liberty games and some WNBA games because the Liberty had some draft.
Sabrina Ionescu is a transformative star, and she's a generational talent, and she already has a following, and I think that's significant. And we need that next generation of stars who are going to capture an audience beyond just the diehard women's hoops fan. I think when you get her playing at Barclays Center, and when we're past this, and all of a sudden you can have Kevin Durant, who also plays in that arena, sitting courtside at a game to watch her, or you just have people coming out in New York to watch her, which they will. She's that kind of draw. I think it's going to be wonderful for our league and for the Liberty. And look, it may take a couple years for, the Liberty to translate that excitement into wins. It often does. I mean, you saw she had the back page of the Post the morning of the draft, leading into the draft. And I think that kind of thing will happen more often with Sabrina and the Liberty.
Outside of the draft, you and CC have been cooking with the podcast. I mean, doing some social distancing yourself. Talk about this kind of safe at home series that you've had. You've had some big stars on, including Yankee manager Aaron Boone.
It's been great for CC and I think, especially the first one we did, kind of gave us that sense of normalcy. Like, wow, it's just good to hear each other again and be bantering and have some laughter. I think that was sort of, when there was even more uncertainty and paranoia surrounding everything. So that's been a blessing, and getting some interesting guests on. This week we had Dexter Fowler, who's awesome, hilarious guy, great stories, and a Jordan Brand guy. So we actually have some good MJ stories, great Barry Bonds stories as well.
Ryan, I was excited to see, of course, this proposal by Major League Baseball about potentially July 1st or maybe even July 4th. And then also some of the other stories surrounding the Yankees. I really thought the story with Aaron Judge and this hashtag Real Heroes was a touching one.
We obviously lionize athletes and public figures. And, when survival is an afterthought, it's easy to do that. But when all of a sudden survival vaults back into the front of your mind rather than the back of it, it sort of changes the lens as to how we view who our heroes really are, right? And I think, athletes, just like all of us, realize like, wow, that nurse who knows she is going to, an area that she's going to be exposed to a deadly virus every day, but she's there to save others. That person's a hero, and that, that you have that doctor who's, walking into a ward of COVID-19 patients. She's a hero. He's a hero, and I think we all feel that way now. And I love that athletes and public figures have used their platforms, such as Aaron Judge has, to highlight and honor these people who, rightfully deserve this attention. And I also think, for those people, it can be energizing. And as far as baseball goes, and you mentioned the July 1st, July 4th stuff, look, none of us know a concrete plan right now. I think obviously there are still certain hurdles that have to be, leapt over in order to get to baseball. But the encouraging thing is, right now the prevailing thought and sentiment is that we will get baseball. And it seems like July is a light at the end of the tunnel right now. So obviously health and safety is going to take priority, and everything is going to be done within those confines. But it's fun to get to think about baseball in a little more of a tangible way than we've been able to in a month and a half, 2 months.
This past year was such a big year for you, filling in for Michael Kay and John Sterling. What was it like to replace Kay and Sterling this past year?
I grew up listening to both of them on the radio. Like, I literally went to Yankee games with a sign that said, we love you, Michael Kay and John Sterling, and so it was an honor to get to sub in for them. Of course, it is bittersweet because, it was as both of them were dealing with different health ailments, but thank God, they're both back and in good shape, and I'm feeling good. Michael's voice sounded amazing, in those months after the surgery. And just getting to do Yankee games, man, it's a dream come true. I grew up a diehard Yankee fan. I feel so attached to the franchise. And working from being an intern at Yes to doing the scoreboard hosting at the stadium to the different roles I've had on air with the Yes Network involving the Yankees, to being a fan obsessed with every single game growing up. In a lot of ways, that franchise is my heartbeat. I definitely had some moments last year where I allowed myself to feel the magnitude from my own world of getting to do Yankee games on that stage and let it really, really, feel it emotionally.
Well, I think it's only a matter of time before we have baseball back. And of course, you're going to get married this next year, right? In Italy?
Yeah, Bobby, we had to, unfortunately, we had to bump it to June of 2021. We were due to get married in Italy this June. And while I'm happy to see that actually, as it turns out, Italy is starting to open things, back up now, and they've done a great job of, kind of flattening their curve. Obviously, it became a pretty clear decision that we were going to have to postpone it. So, gives us all something to look forward to. It stinks because we were so excited and so ready. But the reality is, everybody has had to make at least some form of sacrifice during this period of time due to this global pandemic. And if the worst one we have to make is postponing our wedding, then we're doing pretty well and we're pretty lucky. So, we'll, I'm sure, ramp the excitement back up once we get a little closer to June 2021.
Well, congrats again on the engagement. And like I said, I can't wait to see you at the ballpark, Ryan. I appreciate you taking some time.
Thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it, man. Always good to talk with you.